Het is op dit moment misschien wel een van de lastigste banen ter wereld. Ambassadeur van Israël zijn. Hoe kun je verbinden in een tijd waarin er zoveel polarisatie is rondom Israël? Bij mij aan tafel zit de ambassadeur van Israël hier in Nederland, Modi Ephraim. Dit interview is voor kerst opgenomen en vandaar dat we niet hier de actualiteit bespreken. Maar daarvoor kunt u terecht op ons liveblog cvi.nl/actueel. Mr. Ephraim, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here, and an honor, because I am imagining that you are having, since the 7th of October, a very, very busy time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But always it's a pleasure to be here in Zeker.
Yeah. So how is it like to be an ambassador of the country that at this moment is the most criticized country, I think, in the entire world?
Well, I'm not sure the most criticized, but anyway, it's tough. Since October 7th, we face like 2.5 very tough months.
Yes.
Fighting for our existence, for our survival. And of course, it was a war that was forced on us by Hamas in this barbaric, brutal attack in October 7th.
Absolutely.
And of course, being here in Europe, I have to tell you that at least in these previous weeks, so we did get a support and understanding that first of all of our right for self-defense, but of course in this fight against terror.
Yeah, because I can imagine it's a hard and also demanding task since the 7th of October up until now to be an ambassador of Israel. How is it for you personally?
Well, personally, having the family there in Israel, worry about them, and doing our mission here, so it's not easy. This, I can tell you, almost 30 years in the Foreign Service, this was the toughest period that
It was the toughest.
We experienced.
Yeah, why?
Why? Because it was an attack on civilians, an attack that they infiltrated to Israel, massacre, a real trauma to the civilians in the south, but all over Israel. And for years, we always did our best in order to fight terror. But we were looking, as the world always is calling, looking for a better future, looking for peace. We tried to do our best with the Palestinians, opening industrial zones in order to provide them places for labor force to maintain their families, to improve their economy.
But
and
still it happened.
And still it happened. And if you see all these villages, most of the people, they were very active in supporting the Gaza civilians, in having projects there, in trying to improve their life. And unfortunately, we had to face this attack.
Yeah.
And we all remember, in 2005, we left Gaza. We have no interest in Gaza at all, in the being there. And we did our best in order to support in the county, in the other zones. And unfortunately, we have no partners there.
No.
And against terror, you have to fight. And basically, that's the main primary goal that we have now, is to destroy all the military capabilities of Hamas and to create a new reality. A new reality that we're all hoping and looking for it, especially now before the end of the year. Because all Israel is in a war now. All Israelis.
And people are very involved also with the situation. But you, on an emotional level, do you sleep at night?
Well, the first weeks I couldn't sleep. I have to tell you, couldn't sleep. Having the looking, and I can tell you the first morning. This was Shabbat morning, Simchat Torah. One of the most festive days in the Jewish calendar. And I received the call. It was a little bit after 6:30 in the morning, and you asked me from where? From my mother-in-law, saying there is a war in Israel. So we could not believe it, and then we saw what is happening there,
all the images,
in the area, in the festival there. Horrible images, such a cruelty, such a barbaric attack. We could not believe it. And it took some time, I have to confess. It took some time also for the IDF. So now we are all, in Israel, united in this fight against Hamas, against terror, for a better future.
Yeah, and you are an ambassador, you're a diplomat. Are you trained? Are you ready for this task?
As a human being, you can never be ready to see such images. A few weeks ago, we were sitting in the embassy with 15 journalists looking together at these horrible images footages from October 7th. None of us could believe it.
No.
None of us could open even to have a discussion, because we were in shock to see how barbaric.
To give a little bit of context, this was like a closed screening, only for journalists to see the reality of what happened on October 7th.
Absolutely.
And you were there.
To share, and we were there, and we were looking, how they burned people, couples alive, kids, babies, and the cruelty also, foreign employees from Thailand, from Vietnam. It was really a shock for all of us, and I can tell you later on I joined the Dutch foreign minister in her visit to Israel, and we were visiting one of these villages in Kfar Aza, and the devastation of Kfar Aza.
You saw it with your own eyes.
We saw it. We came to one small apartment for a young couple of his 20s, that basically they were burned alive, and it took weeks to identify some ashes from these that just started, these young people that started their life in this peaceful area and a peaceful kibbutz, and you know kibbutz, and you know how nice it is, and agriculture surrounding there, and the people just would like to have their own life, but celebrating Simchat Torah, and it was completely destroyed. And it will take time to rebuild this area.
Course. Yeah, because you tell that you were there with the Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs. What was her reaction to the devastation over there?
Well, I can tell you that she and all the Dutch delegation, they were in shock to see. We could not, as human beings, it doesn't matter if you are Jewish or Christian, if you are Dutch or Israeli, you cannot believe that people can do that. These were monsters that did it, really.
Yeah.
And we still see what is happening with the hostages, and how they not just there, violated the women, also when they are there in Gaza, in these tunnels. That is why we think it's extremely important to call for a release of all hostages.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that the Dutch people supported, we had 3 different visits of families of hostages. There was a great support and call to release the hostages.
Right.
And also I have to tell you, I really appreciate the role of the Dutch government, of Prime Minister Rutte, with and the Foreign Minister doing all their efforts in order to release the hostages.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to your task as an ambassador of Israel, what is the biggest challenge for you since October 7th, being an ambassador of this country?
Well, of course, the most challenging is to convince that Israel, and we are here in the Netherlands. It's a longer partnership between the two countries. Next year we will we'll celebrate 75 years of bilateral relation. We share the same values. We are looking for the same way on the world as the free world. And of course, it should be clear, and unfortunately it wasn't clear here to everybody, that on one hand you have to fight the radicals, the terror, in order to have a beautiful and a much better future. On the other hand, of course, negotiating with the moderates, and of course, if you remember, it seems like a while ago, but before October 7th, we were very close to sign an agreement with Saudi Arabia, as we signed with some other countries in the Abraham Accords.
Yeah, to try to get peace with the neighboring countries.
To have, we are looking here what is happening in the European Union. We would like to have also a peaceful region, and that's what we are doing since, of course, the peace with Egypt and the peace with Jordan and the Oslo agreements and many more negotiations. But in order to have a real negotiations and a real peace, as we say, I served many years in Latin America, you need 2 for tango. And that's what we are looking for.
Right. Talking about 7 October, you told already how you heard about the news, what was going on there. Were there also relatives of you or friends of you who were involved in the attacks in the south?
Right. Well, I do have friends that live there. I can give you an example. Most of, as I mentioned before, I served many years in Latin America, and we had an agricultural expert that lived there in Be'eri, that was always doing tikkun olam, to improve the world, coming from country to country in Latin America, in Africa, and trying to share his experience, his knowledge. And unfortunately, he was murdered with his wife, David Schwarzman.
Yeah. How did you hear about that?
I heard one of my colleagues told me that he was in one of the kibbutzim in the north when they basically moved to live there. The people from this kibbutz. And unfortunately, as you know, there is like a screen in the kibbutz that shows the activities of the kibbutz. These days, it shows the funerals one after the others.
Yeah.
And then we found out that he was murdered there with his wife.
Yeah, yeah. And then your work starts. I mean, the busy work starts. You have to defend Israel in the media. You have to have contacts with the Dutch government to see what they can do to liberate the hostages and stuff like that. And then you also attend a lot of events to support the Jewish communities. And one of these events was Hanukkah. Not so long ago, the Jewish people celebrated Hanukkah. And one of the mayors of the Dutch city of Enschede, he didn't want to meet you. What happened there?
Well, first I have to tell you the positive side, and then I'll go to this incident. Since October 7th, we had many emotional events of solidarity. There was one headed by the Chairman of Parliament and Prime Minister Rutte, with a moment of silence in the Parliament. And of course, many with the Jewish community. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Christian for Israel for doing a lot for Israel, showing the support, showing the solidarity. In a very emotional days when I came to Veenendaal, to Erk, to different places in Friesland and other places, and seeing hundreds of people supporting Israel, showing the pictures of the hostages, calling to release them immediately. I think for us, it gives us strength and in our this struggle in the community. And going back to Hanukkah, and of course Hanukkah, you know, is the happiest celebration in the Jewish calendar.
It's a holiday of lights, yes.
Festival of lights, and like last year, it was great to celebrate with many Dutch people in different locations. So this year it was much more difficult with mixed feelings, being there in different activities in the Jewish community and other communities, with the mayor of Amsterdam, mayor of The Hague, and many others with parliamentarians. We had a nice lighting of candles in the parliament. And of course, speaking about the fight, how the little light defeated the darkness, and that's what we are looking for in this fight against terror.
But then there was this mayor from Enschede who didn't want to sit next to you.
That's right. I went to a beautiful synagogue of Enschede with hundreds of people, Christians and Jews, celebrating together Hanukkah, celebrating also 95th years for this synagogue. And I heard that the mayor is sitting there in the balcony and not with us, and that he was afraid to sit next to me or to take a picture, to have a picture with me. It was unfortunate, I think, because we had a beautiful evening, and I addressed the people there, also speaking about the importance of fighting anti-Semitism, combating anti-Semitism, especially in those days. We see a rise of anti-Semitism since October 7th, and we all, mayors, as of course the national government, should fight against it together with other organizations. So unfortunately, he was there in the balcony, and I didn't see him during this event.
Now, afterwards, he apologized.
And then the next day, he called me to apologize, and I think it was embarrassing for him, and unfortunately, because these are the time when, that's what I told him, as a leader of the community, as a leader of the city, you should be there. You should be with all your citizens and show that you support your citizens and you are united together.
But it proves that this topic is very, very sensitive, that people have an opinion about it. We're going to talk later also about the many demonstrations, the pro-Palestinian demonstrations. So it is a very sensitive topic. Can you explain why it is so sensitive, Israel?
Yeah, well, you know, I can tell you, since I arrived to the Netherlands 2 years ago, I was always, I think, speaking about working in the political arena with the parliament, with the parliamentarians, with the government. So Israel is one of the
hot topics
always. You know, sometimes I do find it because of a great interest of Israel. As I mentioned before, we do share the same values, but sometimes I think there is a misunderstanding about Israel. Israel is looking for peace. Israel is looking, and I think this neighborhood of the European Union should be the most friendly and understanding. And we have a great cooperation with the Netherlands and with the European Union countries. So of course, we have to explain, because I think they judge Israel differently than many other countries. Sometimes it's good because we are like, as we say, the chosen people, and we do respect the value. And you know, for us, as the Talmudic terminology said, saving one soul, it's like saving the entire world.
Right.
And it's important for us. And also nowadays, when we have to, it's forced on us. We did not choose to have this war in Gaza. So we do face terrorist organizations that basically, from within its people, use them as human shields and attacking Israel. Right. And we are doing everything we can to avoid innocent casualties. Of course, it's not easy when you have to operate in an urban area, and when they use mosques and schools and also international organizations and facilities to attack Israel. Yeah. So it should be clear, and you know, I don't want to give the example of the Netherlands, but you know, in one day, if and for sure, of course, we pray that it never will happen. But speaking about like Enschede or some region, if they cross and they'll kill 4,000, because that's like the Dutch population is double than the Israeli. 4,000 people, Dutch people in one day. So what is the government reaction will be? Of course, to attack and to destroy this terror organization. To protect
your citizens.
Absolutely, and we think that it's that nowadays we need the Netherlands and all the European countries, an international coalition, in order to fight Hamas, as it was done against ISIS.
I'm sure you have repeated this already many times, that you want to defend Israel and that Israel has the right to defend, but still a lot of people in the Netherlands and also outside the Netherlands are protesting against Israel. How do you think, you're a diplomat, your job is to make connections. Is it possible to make connections today, right now, with the Muslim community here in our country?
Well, we do have a very good connection with the majority of the population here in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, there are radicals that do demonstrate, but they demonstrate when they call it pro-Palestinians. We have to be clear. It's praising Hamas, praising terror, praising people that killed, that murdered and violated people in their own homes.
So you say it's not possible to communicate with these demonstrators?
It is hard to do that. And of course, it should be clear, it's not on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The issue is now against or supporting terror. And that's why I'm saying the vast majority of the Dutch people understand exactly what is it all about and support Israel in this fight against terrorism. And we know the terror was now in Israel. It came also in the past few years. It was also in different places here in Europe, and it can come to Europe. And we have to unite forces in order to fight the terror. These demonstrations, of course, in my view, with all the respect to the freedom of expression, when you praise Hamas, when you praise terror, you cannot demonstrate in Western country that value the human life.
Right. So as an ambassador of Israel, ambassadors usually they are here to make connections, to make diplomatic relations. Is your job right now more to connect or more to defend Israel?
Of course, it's a combination. It's a combination, and I can tell you the connection with the Muslim community. So with the moderates, we do our best. You know, I hosted in my house an iftar dinner in order to be together, because we are all human beings. We are all looking for a better future for our kids. and of course for the better future of the Middle East as well. So we are looking to be more connected to the moderate people in the Muslim community. We are looking for them to call against the radicals, against the terror, and to live together as one civilized community.
People. Yeah, let's talk about the hostages, because recently we heard the terrible tragedy of 3 hostages that were killed by Israeli fire, by accident. What are the diplomatic efforts right now to release the hostages? Is there any hostage talk at the moment?
Well, first of all, this was really a tragic incident, unfortunately, because this is one of the main goals of being there. One is to fight and basically to destroy the military capability of Hamas, but the other one is of course to release and to bring them back. And we know that till now, just half of them came back to their homes. And some families were here as well. And we know the personal stories, and we're still thinking about them. 70 days being there with no food, with very poor conditions, and of course with violence and in the tunnels of Gaza or somewhere else. So I think it is an obligation, a commitment for all of us, not just of course the Israel, all of us to bring them back.
How do you put effort in this topic?
And I think that's as we did it in the first stage when there were 110 people were released. As I mentioned, speaking with the leaders of the region, President of Egypt had a very important role. Of course, the United States, the Qataris as well. The leadership of the Netherlands visited Qatar, spoke with the Arab leaders in order to explain it, and I think it's clear for everybody. So first of all, this should be on the news. Should be the main topic, I think, for all of us. We would like to see them back. And, we just mentioned the Hanukkah. It's such a nice celebration that unfortunately these hostages could not celebrate, and still looking for the freedom, for this small light that will defeat the darkness. And speaking about the one specific case, so we were following, and when I say we, all the Dutch people were following Ophir Engel. The Ophir Engel, the Dutch boy that got released. The Dutch boy that got released, that his grandfather and his father, they were here, and they spoke with the parliamentarians, with the government, with different communities, with the media as well, and just to have the attention. Because unfortunately, some parts of the societies here and all over the world forgot already the October 7th. And when he came back, it was such a joy, such an emotional, and I was in touch with the grandfather, with them, for the family to have him back. And we need, I think, to see all of them coming back to their families.
Yeah. We're almost coming to a conclusion. Many people are watching this interview that support Israel. What can we do to support Israel?
First of all, I'm very grateful to all of you for this support, because as we say, friends, we see who are your friends in these tough times, in these dark times, and this is what we have to go through in the last few months. But
we want to be friends indeed, so what should our deeds be?
Absolutely. So coming and visiting us, it's extremely important. Coming and supporting the villages, because we have to rebuild these villages, and we need the support in order to, first of all, to bring safety to this area and to convince them to go back, but to rebuild the houses, to rebuild the kibbutzim. I think that will be a very nice to visit there. And I wanted to also to congratulate. There was a beautiful menorah lighting in the city of Sderot.
Yes.
That Christenen for Israel came there and did a lighting. Well, just I think 20% of the population came back to Sderot. This gives us strength in order to come back and to be there and to be with us and to support us also in the political decisions, in the different sectors of the community, in the media, to understand the importance to continue calling for the release of the hostages. And to share this optimism for this coming year.
Yeah, and final question, because you are the official ambassador of Israel, and I think many viewers, they regard themselves also as a little bit an ambassador for Israel. What is important to remember about Israel, to say in discussions, for example, with family or with friends or in the church? Do you have one argument for them? What is important to say about the conflict right now in Israel?
Well, first of all, without all these ambassadors, my work will be impossible. So I really appreciate it. we have to remember that when we speak nowadays, that it's really the only democracy. We do share the same values. We would like to improve the world, to do tikkun olam, not just inside the Jewish world, but also with our neighbors. We did and we will do our best. And we need this support, your support, especially in these tough days, to explain what is all about Israel, and of course, to come and to pray with us and to be with us. And I think together we can achieve a better world, and of course we will overcome the challenges that unfortunately we have to face these days.
Ambassador Modi Ephraim, thank you for coming to our studio.
Thank you very much.
En u thuis bedankt voor het kijken naar deze uitzending van Christenen voor Israël. En als u op de hoogte wilt blijven over actualiteit, over gebedspunten, dan kunt u terecht op onze website cvi.nl/actueel. Nogmaals bedankt voor het kijken en graag tot de volgende keer.